Hello, my name is Philip Lua, and I'm very proud to be chair of our trust. I continue to be amazed and humbled at the lengths my colleagues, clinical and non-clinical alike, have gone to during the pandemic, and I'm sure you are too. This is the first of a series of videos that we're going to publish to allow our governors to share their experiences of what they are doing at the Trust, how they are fulfilling their statutory responsibilities, and specifically for this video, how we're keeping them involved during the pandemic. You're going to hear from our lead governor, Stephen Baines, and he is joined by John Gledhill, another publicly elected governor. Stephen and John will give you their governor update, and then you will be hearing from Zebby Deleuze. Zebby is just one of our many wonderful colleagues who have gone above and beyond to provide compassionate care for our patients throughout the pandemic. She's going to share her experience of being redeployed to the intensive care unit. I really do hope you'll find her story as interesting and as moving as I did when I first heard it. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Stephen and John.
As Philip has already mentioned, I am currently the lead governor on the Trust Council of Governors. This is the body that, amongst other things, holds the board to account for the performance of the Trust.
Hello, my name is John Gledhill. I was elected as a governor for Lindley and the Valleys constituency in July 2019.
The theme for this first video will be life during the pandemic and beyond. And John and I hope to be able to give you a glimpse of what life has been like at CHFT since the virus hit back in March, together with a feel for what the Trust is doing in order to get things back on track.
We are in strange times. With the NHS at this current time. I'm hearing firsthand how colleagues are constantly having to strike a balance between treating patients with compassion whilst taking really difficult and unfamiliar decisions and action to keep everyone safe. Meetings are still taking place, but in an entirely different way, largely through Microsoft Teams. This has involved me and fellow governors. We are grateful to colleagues at the Trust who have worked hard to ensure that governors can still be involved and carry out our duties, even if it is at a distance.
Throughout the pandemic, the Chief Operating Officer of the Trust, Helen Barker, has issued a bulletin to all colleagues, initially daily and more recently twice weekly. The bulletin has been full of advice and information for colleagues, and we as governors have received it too. As a result, we have felt completely involved and have been able to see the lengths that the Trust has had to go to in order to cope. It's clear that the welfare of colleagues has been of paramount importance to the Trust, and our workforce teams have all been working really hard to ensure that colleagues have the correct support mechanisms in place, get the right amount of downtime, and have outlets for expressing how they are feeling. Just a couple of examples are the introduction of wobble rooms, where colleagues can go and let off steam or reflect, and the introduction of Schwartz rounds, which provide a forum for colleagues from all backgrounds to come together to talk about the emotional and social challenges of caring for patients. The aim is to offer a safe and confidential environment in which to share their stories and offer support to one another. This has been particularly helpful during the pandemic.
As governors, we are aware that many of you will be wondering when things will get back to normal, particularly if you or a loved one are waiting for an outpatient appointment or a date for surgery. We can assure you that colleagues at CHFT, as with every other trust, are working extremely hard to get things back on track.
To summarise the work that is going on, doctors and nurses are reviewing every patient's case and prioritising those in greatest need of clinical care. The Trust is working closely with our GPs to restart appointments and treatments in the safest way possible for both patients and staff. The threat of COVID-19 is still present in our communities, and the Trust is making sure it is ready for any future surges which may impact on the delivery of patient treatment. Colleagues are also preparing for winter, which is traditionally the period in which the NHS is under pressure from the seasonal peak of the winter vomiting bug, norovirus and flu.
An absolute priority is to keep patients and staff safe. To do this, the way we provide your healthcare has changed and requires us to work with new processes that take longer than before the pandemic. This includes the use of personal protective equipment, laying out new access routes and locations, creating spaces and timings between appointments, ensuring social distancing is observed, ensuring appropriate cleaning takes place between each patient, and that there is separation between patients who have or are suspected of having COVID-19 and those who have tested negative. Please support us by adhering to social distancing rules. Please attend appointments alone where at all possible, and always wear a face covering while you are inside buildings and on our sites. Please use the hand sanitizers on arrival and as you leave. Thank you for listening. We hope you found this update informative. Goodbye for now.
We know we have a long way to go, so please bear with us and continue to support us throughout these tough times ahead. Goodbye for now.
Hello, my name is Debbie Deluse. I am employed by CHFT as a paediatric physiotherapist. I had been redeployed during COVID-19 pandemic to work with the respiratory therapy team, predominantly working with or on the intensive care unit. Here I'm going to share my experience of my time on the unit. Having had previous respiratory critical care experience, it wasn't long before I got the call for redeployment. To be precise, it was 20th of March when I joined the wonderful respiratory team, followed by intensive training, and before I knew it, I was stood on the nurses' station on ICU, thinking, how am I here? I was supposed to be on holiday in Dubai with my young family. I remember the voices of children and the singing of nursery rhymes that I was so used to being a paediatric physio, gone and replaced with the sounds of alarms, breaths, hissing of air pressure. The very sounds that once frightened me, and just like that brought me back to a very personal childhood experience in a blink of an eye. I had looked around to see most of the patients were sedated and ventilated, but then I saw a patient on a CPAP hood, awake, gasping for air. My heart broke for him as he was awake, seeing and feeling everything I was, but the difference being he was COVID-19 positive, struggling to get enough oxygen into his blood. I could see he was frightened, as was I. But the difference was he was dependent on the care of the ICU team and on me. I smiled at him from a distance as I wanted to ease his anxiety, but then quickly realising he couldn't see me smiling through my FFP3 mask and my full PPE. So I waved instead, and he waved back. I was down to review and treat a patient next to him, which would involve clearing the chest of secretions, positioning to optimise ventilation and postural drainage, as well as exercises to help maintain joint flexibility. I came out from behind the curtain with my colleague when the registrar asked if we could assist the very man that I waved at into prone, to help him ventilate better and to help prevent the need for further escalation of treatment, which would subsequently mean sedation and intubation. We had received training for proning mechanically ventilated and sedated patients, and I had also witnessed this being done during a personal experience. However, assisting a patient who was awake on a CPAP hood was not routine practice, but clinically, during COVID-19, my colleague and I could reason why this was a method of treatment, which then became standard practice during COVID-19 and became a big part of my role. Proning required a risk assessment, problem solving, and lots of patient reassurance, as well as recognising how difficult of a task it was for a patient who was struggling to breathe and who was tiring. Proning was a success, and the effects of this was instant for the patient and translated across to his PO2 and the work of breathing. I was moved by the patient's fantastic sense of humour. I leant closer to him to overcome the barrier of communication through the FFP3 mask, offering comfort and reassuring him that his oxygen was improving, while thanking him for the great sense of humour which kept us all going. He went on to do really well. I walked away that day feeling that I made a difference. I drove home struggling to hold back the tears, knowing that I did my best and also knowing that my sister would have been proud too. I'd lost my sister when I was 14 to type 1 respiratory failure, secondary to a respiratory virus, while undergoing treatment for leukemia. The very symptoms that I see COVID-19 patients experiencing on ICU. Many would ask how I built the courage and strength to face COVID-19, for which I would reply, this was one of many reasons that gave me the strength and courage to get into my PPE every morning and walk onto the unit without any hesitation. I just knew instantly that this is where I needed to be. There was one particular day where the sadness became overwhelming. I could feel my heart sinking as I held back the tears from behind my mask, while my colleagues and I prepared to deprone one of our patients for the last time, so that the family could say their goodbyes via a video call. Reading medical notes and the difficult conversations with family who have not seen their loved ones for weeks and were not ready to let their loved ones go was heartbreaking. The pain and anguish was palpable. Families not being able to visit was one of the most difficult aspects of this experience. Plans to deprone were put on hold until the family were ready, and the team made every effort to give the family the time they needed. Then we had many stories of success. So what did success look like on ICU during COVID-19? Ones that particularly stand out is supporting to sick patients on the edge of the bed for the first time after being sedated and ventilated for 3 to 4 weeks. With the support of 3 physiotherapists and nursing staff, this was a remarkable milestone. Patients were so pleased with this achievement, and these baby steps to recovery where every step counted. There were tears, and lots of them. I helped wipe away many, as did many of my colleagues after me, as patients were too weak to lift their arms. The success kept on coming, where patients were supported to sit out in their chair for the first time and then stand. There were more tears of joy, but this time the patients were becoming strong enough and supported to wipe away their own tears. You could feel and hear the sound of success in the voice of the ICU team as they learned a patient had been successfully extubated and decannulated, which meant another step closer to being transferred onto the ward, where they would continue to be given the time to recover and supported by my colleagues to get stronger. And then came the discharge home news. Well, this was the ultimate goal, and once this was achieved, it was a wonderful feeling of success. I'm not going to lie, working with a critically ill patient has been physically and emotionally challenging. I have worked at my hardest and out of my comfort zone, but then I would look around and see my colleagues all doing exactly the same with such care, compassion, supporting one another, and not to forget the support of the general public. When you see this, it lifts you. It gives you this burst of this superpower you didn't even know you had. I would look around across the bays and see the nurse, the healthcare assistant, gently combing and plaiting a patient's hair. I would see the nurses ensuring families' final wishes were honoured with such precision and sensitivity. I would see my physio colleagues coordinating proning and chest clearance, the unit clerk, the housekeeper keeping the unit running, the doctors leading care, and many more health professionals. The list can go on. Seeing this really moves you. Everyone working together with a common purpose to save lives. Although working on ICU during COVID-19 has been challenging, in many ways it has been a privilege, and I feel honoured to be part of the team during the COVID-19 pandemic. Patients may have not known me, but I tried my best to get to know them, their story, their social history, through the medical notes, through the eyes, or the facial expressions, or simply by listening or holding their hand. Although they may never know me, I would like them to know that their life mattered. I give every ounce of my strength and skills to care for them, as for me they were not just a statistic or a curve on the graph, they were a patient whose name I knew and will remember. They were a patient under my care and became part of their story. For those who lost loved ones, I hope they can take some comfort in knowing their loved ones were never alone. Their matching hearts that were sent out to them were with them too. As things settle and we have the time to reflect, I feel like the last 8 weeks I have been running on adrenaline and the support of everyone and got what needed to be done. I now feel exhausted, but I can honestly say that I have grown as a person and learned so much. The experience has been life-changing in so many ways. Though things have settled, I'm not entirely too sure what to prepare for. The unsettling feeling of the calm before a storm for another wave, or to prepare to go back to my usual paediatric caseload, where the services were significantly reduced and will take a lot of time to restart and get things back to where they need to be. Whatever the future holds, I feel like with a little bit of me time, I will be prepared and ready for what that may be.
Well, I hope you've really enjoyed hearing from our governors and Zebby. If you're not currently a member of the Trust and would like to hear more about what we do and what our future plans are, why not join up? It's really easy. You can do this online at www.cht.nhs.uk. Or if you'd rather, give us a call at our membership office on 01484 347 342. Thanks for watching and stay safe, everyone.